Hey, I was wondering if you could start by introducing yourself.
Hello, my name is Marie-Josée Gélina. I've spent most of my 70 years reinventing myself. Every few years, I start something new, I go back to school, I try in a new direction. The only thread that runs through all of the different things I've done is that I'm creative. I retired about 8 years ago from a 30-year career in education. I worked as a teacher in an alternative school and eventually as a mentor in professional education.
Marie Jose, I know that you're a talented artist. Can you tell us a bit more about how you got into doing art?
I've always made art. My whole life I've made art. And I look at the world in a creative lens all the time. And so I paint and I draw and I write because I need to express the way I look at the world and the way I see things. Over the past 8 years, I've learned about different kinds of artistic practices. It's a big challenge, but it's the great way to develop yourself and to tap into inner resources. So what I mostly do on most days is I get up in the morning, I do writing early in the morning. I publish a blog. I have a website on which I have a blog and also try to sell my art, promote my art, things like that. So I work on that in the morning. I journal. I'm a lifelong student of the artist's way. So I do my morning pages every day. And then afterwards, I go to my studio and I work on visual art projects. The work I do is, I guess, best described as mixed media because I'm curious and I'm adventurous. I experiment with combining different medium and different approaches. My work is intuitive. My work's inspired by nature, mostly by the natural cycles. I'm fascinated by the energy of transformation, the cyclical nature of everything. I like transitions and I like transformations and change. So I guess my art reflects my life because I've had a life full of transitions and full of changes, most of which I've initiated because it's kind of an addiction.
Now, Marie Jose, I know that you like to travel very much. Can you tell us a bit about that?
I've dreamt of traveling my whole life. I couldn't do it while I was working and raising my family, but I can do it now. So I like to go to new places where I've never been, places where I don't speak the language, where I have to sort out like how to discover it. This fascinates me. And you realize that the thread of our common humanity unites us all. So that's my life. I paint, I write, and I travel, and I keep discovering new ways to feed my thirst for learning and change. That's who I am.
Could we have a tour of your studio?
Sure. I'll show you. Welcome to my studio. This, in this previous incarnation, was my son's bedroom. But, you know, the kids, they grow and they leave, and so now we have more space. Because I experiment with so many different things, I have a lot of different materials. Mostly I use acrylic paints, but currently I'm exploring watercolors. And I like to do collage too. So I have bins of different kinds of materials in which I store the things I collect that I can glue on things or use to make textures or things like that. I've worked in oil, acrylics, and now watercolors, so I have gear for different stuff. The paintings that I make are done usually on canvas, but not always. I finished one piece not long ago. This one over here. It's a combination of acrylic paint and collage. I used recycled papers to create textures. So,
Lovely.
Yeah. So the way I work is intuitive. Like I initially started this work in this direction because I thought I was making a plant. But then I changed my mind, and now there are dances, people dancing in the moonlight. So
Really original. I love it.
So I do that a lot. I switch things around. I start one direction and then if it doesn't speak to anymore, I change it.
Hmm.
And I see what I find, like in the things that I've glued and the things that I've put on it, I find like patterns.
Kind of like life that way, how you change
I change
directions
yeah,
depending
exactly.
what you're
So
seeing.
my art reflects my life. Yeah, I change directions. I start in one way and commit, but then things change, you know.
Great.
And when I'm not sure what I'm going to be working on, I work in a sketchbook. I have sketchbooks of different sizes.
Can we have a look at your sketchbook?
Yeah, the sketchbook is it's a place where I can experiment, where I can try things, and you know, I have several sketchbooks. Here, this one has more stuff in it. You can see that a lot of the things I do have collage in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very original.
Yeah.
That's where you do your experimenting.
Yeah, and you know, like in every creative venture, you have phases where you're creating a lot, but you have phases where you're stuck, and it's just part of choosing this kind of a life.
Can you show us some more of your artwork?
Yeah.
Now, Marie Jose, I know that you love to travel. Do you think you could tell us a little bit about your travels and why you love to travel so much?
I think when I was very young, I spent a lot of time. I always liked geography. I'm actually interested in geography, and did a lot of reading about different places in the world. I love languages. I speak 3 languages, and I studied linguistics. I'm interested in how people use language to express themselves in general. I like the feeling of being in an unfamiliar situation and learning from it. I really like that. I have no problem going somewhere where I know no one and, you know, have to discover the place and the people. I find people everywhere to be kind and welcoming. I've never had bad experiences anywhere, you know, so it gives me faith in the world, you know, to meet different people like that. Mostly I go to Europe. I spent 1 winter in Mexico, which was interesting. I spent 6 weeks there in the south of Mexico in a fishing village, so that was fun. I do speak Spanish, so that helped. My children, I have adventurous children, and they left home and they moved to Europe. So I have a daughter in Lisbon and a son in Berlin. So I've been to Berlin to see my son. And then from Berlin, I thought, well, it's not so far. I can go to Czechoslovakia, you know. So I took a bus through Germany and went to Czechoslovakia because there it was. And then I went to Lisbon to see my daughter. And from Lisbon, I visited other parts of Portugal. I took a bus to Spain. Then I have a sister-in-law in London, so I took a flight to London to go and see her. And then my son says, "Mom, you're in London. You need to go to Paris." So I did. So,
Lucky you.
Yeah. Well, my son, I was lucky my son treated us to 3 days in Paris. It was quite
Lovely. What a lovely gift.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So I've traveled to a few places, and now I'm planning to go again this spring. I have two trips planned this year. I have one in the spring where I'm not sure yet. I think I'll stick to Northern Europe because I'm only going to go for about 3 weeks this time. So it'll include Berlin, but probably Copenhagen because my son wants to spend some time with us there. And then we'll see where else we go. And then in the fall, I'm applying for to participate in an art fair in London.
So, the reason I wanted to interview you as my first spotlight of a woman who's doing great things, and in my opinion, doing things that are inspirational, is because you've inspired me throughout the years.
Aww.
In many different ways. And so I thought that you'd be the perfect candidate
Thank you.
to help inspire other people.
Well, I think that many people don't realize, me the first, that whatever we do could be of any inspiration or assistance to other people. So maybe by doing what you're doing, you could give other people confidence in making choices in their own lives.
Exactly.
To dare, because we always are, everybody experiences fear, it's normal, it's part of
And this
life.
this channel is it's for women specifically over 40, but it could apply to men also who are, wanting to try new things, they're afraid to go for their goals and their aspirations. It's also could be for younger people who are trying to,
I think
you can take what you want from it.
I think
or what you need.
when I studied at McGill, I took courses in career counseling, and the stats show that the average person in the 21st century changes directions 14 times.
Yeah,
in a lifetime.
I've heard that as well.
It's a lot. Many people.
I'm not afraid to try new things, and that's what inspires me to want to inspire other people to do that, because I see so many people who are afraid to try new things.
But I think it's a mindset thing. There's been research on this too. One particular person is called Carol Dweck, and she's an American researcher, and she did a lot of work on how your mindset can determine what you do in your life, and she encourages people to have a growth-oriented mindset. So if you're going to grow, you're definitely going to have to change.
Exactly.
You can't stay where you are and grow.
It's like
It's not
the
how it
caterpillar
works.
that builds a cocoon and turns into a butterfly.
You must. Yeah. And
change is inevitable in life.
Yeah, and coming out of a cocoon definitely involves a struggle. So the struggle is real, but the struggle is necessary.
I think sometimes, at least for myself, I could say we mistake the struggle as a barrier, and we feel like that should stop us.
Yeah, but it's not how it works.
But no.
You just see how babies are born,
Exactly. What a great analogy.
It's not a walk in the park.
So thank you for showing us your studio and for talking with us today. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to share my work and my ideas. And I'm open to, collaborating at any time. Thank you very much.